Okay, we're going to test this out. The true cost of selling a home. For this example, we're going to use $1 million house. Our average price point right now is $1 million. First thing that you have to think about, and that most sellers think about, is commission. What am I paying a listing agent? Totally negotiable. I would say on average right now in the marketplace, it's around 5 to 6%. For this example, we'll use 5%. There are some discount brokers that will go lower than that, and there are some brokers that will charge a little bit more. Then there's something that's called seller concessions. Seller concessions are negotiable between the buyer and the seller. Sometimes, depending on the price point of the property, you might be looking at anywhere from 1 to 2%. The seller is offering to take a portion of their proceeds and give that to the buyer's side at settlement. It lessens the amount of money that a buyer would need to bring to the table. That's the best thing for both parties. Sometimes it's for repairs. Sometimes it is because the buyer makes good money, but they don't have enough for a heavier down payment. So buyers will negotiate a seller concession. The next thing to think about is the actual closing cost. Really depends on what market you're in. Closing costs can be anywhere from 1 to 3% depending on what your market is and what your situation is. There's a closing fee where you're paying a title company to actually conduct a settlement. Both buyer and seller are signing away documents that transfer the property from one person to another. Then you have something called transfer taxes. Regardless of where you are, you will pay something to the government in order to sell your property. When you sell a property, you're going to pay state, local, and sometimes municipality taxes. You can also pay an attorney's fee. Then there's something called a recording fee. It's not a lot. Somebody physically does need to walk down to the courthouse and record this new deed and all the paperwork that went along with it. In some cases, you will have a property tax proration. So sometimes that means a seller is going to get money back. Other times it means a seller still owes some money, so they're going to collect that at settlement. Closing costs can be anywhere between 1 and 3%. Again, depends on what your market is doing. For this example, we'll say it's around 1% for this property. You have a mortgage payoff. Some properties are owned free and clear. There is no mortgage. Other properties have a mortgage on top of it. In this example, we have $1 million house. Seller goes to sell it and they get a full price offer. They negotiate all their terms, but they owe $900,000. That's their mortgage that they've been paying. They're not walking away with $1 million. They're walking away with $1 million minus their closing fees, minus any seller concessions, minus commissions, minus what they owe on the property. That's what they're taking home. In this case, we're talking about maybe $50,000. Another thing to consider case by case is capital gains. If you are a single person that is selling a property and you are profiting more than $250,000, you will pay taxes, a capital gains tax, on anything above $250,000 that you've gained. If you are a married couple, the first $500,000 in profit, you will not pay any tax on, any capital gains tax, I should say, but anything past that, you will. Another thing to consider would be home repairs. Most markets for the last couple of years, buyers have the opportunity to go in, inspect a property, request repairs, and it's a negotiation between the buyer and seller on what is going to get repaired. A seller could say, I'm not repairing anything. They could end up repairing anywhere from a couple $100 worth of stuff to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on your situation. And the hidden cost that most people don't really consider when selling a property because it's not on a settlement statement, moving. If you're moving locally, you might not be paying that much. If you're moving long distance, I've seen moving company bills over $20,000. Something to budget for when you are discussing any kind of contract, any kind of negotiation, something that you got to think about depending on what your situation is as a seller. So again, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things to think about when you're selling a property. When I ask you what is the true cost of selling a house, you have to factor in commissions, seller concessions, closing costs, a mortgage payoff, if you have one, capital gains tax, if that's applicable, home repairs, if that's applicable, moving costs, if that's applicable. So I would say in general, on average in our market, it's probably going to be around 7% in order to close a deal. You are selling $1 million house that you own free and clear, you don't pay a mortgage on it, you're really taking 7% of that sales price, so $70,000, and you're walking away with the rest of it, about $930,000 when you sell a property at $1 million. If you own it outright, you don't have any repairs or any drama that goes along with it, no moving costs or capital gains tax. Consult with your agent, consult with an attorney, consult with an accountant. You got to know what you're doing when you're selling a property. These are just some things to think about.